Now, as a coach, I believe there are three main reasons you are not making progress, and I'm going to discuss those with you today. So, I'm a nutrition coach, I'm a personal trainer, I am a movement coach also, right? I do all these things, and I also do talks and seminars about sustainable lifestyle changes, habit formations, all this wonderful stuff. So I've got a vast amount of knowledge on all these different coaching techniques, and I've worked with over 50 people in the past year on a one-to-one basis, and without a doubt hundreds of people in the past 2 years, face-to-face but more in a group setting. So plenty of people, so plenty of exposure, right? Now, the first reason most people aren't making the progress they want to make are standards, right? The standards undoubtedly need to be high. Where your standards are is where you will be as a person, right? That applies not only to your training, but on top of that to everything else you do in life. Standards is what separates everyone, right? If I said to you, tell me the standards of a person who is overweight, who wants to get into football, for example, but just doesn't, even just as a casual sports, someone who probably hates their job and is always late, you would say, right, well, they probably wake up, they're on their phone for an hour, they probably then go downstairs, have some sugary cereal or some waffles, blah, 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 and you tell me exactly what they do and therefore the person they are. And if I say to you, right, now tell me the standards a incredibly fit person would have, who is also always breaking PBs, who is, on top of their career making progression. You say, right, they wake up at this time, they probably go and get a cold shower, then they do a run and they do X, Y, and Z. And you can actually list me the standards, right? So in your own life right now, what I want you to do for me is write down, right? This is an exercise for you to do. Write this down. Write down what your goals are and write down who you want to be. And then create the perfect day for that person. I've done this with a lot of my clients, right? And for example, if you want to be a person who perhaps you wanna lose a stone, what does the version of you who has lost that stone does? What did they do to get to where they are now? Literally write down your morning routine, what can change, and these will be your standards. Now, with your progress with movement training and stuff like that, your standards will be holding you back. This will be the standard of your training, the standards of your movement, it'll be standards of how regularly you train, the quality of your training, everything, the quality of your programming. These will be your standards, and they need to be set very high. So I would suggest setting your goals, understanding who you want to be, what you want to do, and then writing down what that person would do and doing it. And that leads us on to number 2, which is accountability. Now, you might notice I did not say motivation, because motivation is amazing when it comes, but it will always go. It comes in waves. You got to ride that wave up, but when the motivation dips, it's accountability that's going to keep you moving, right? So accountability is that thing that makes you do something when you really don't want to do it, okay? And to be accountable, I think you need skin in the game. You can't be accountable if there is no consequence happening to you, if you get me, right? So take these 2 examples. You've got one person who wants to learn the handstand, and another person who also wants to learn the handstand. Now, person number 1 has no accountability. They've paid no coach. It doesn't really affect them if they don't learn to handstand. It's not their identity. They really just don't care too much about it, and the people around them don't. And now you've got the second person who is paying a coach, let's say £150 a month. They've posted about it, they're posting their progression on Instagram, they've got friends there training with them. Who is going to learn the handstand first, and who is going to progress faster? Without a doubt, it will be person number 2, simply because they are more accountable. You've paid a coach, therefore that will make you do it. A big reason, by the way, of getting a coach, I have a coach and I am a personal trainer. Loads of other personal trainers in my gym have coaches, very simply because it makes you accountable. The very act of paying is powerful in itself. So accountability, very different to motivation there. And then, it's not the only way to become accountable. You can train with friends who will make you accountable. There will be that kind of competitiveness there. And if you post your goals on social media with regular updates, without a doubt, you'll have the accountability of people seeing you, and you won't want to go back on your word. You won't want to be perceived as a person whose standards are so low that they say they'll do something and they stop doing it. And not because of situations and things going on very simply because they drop their standards, right? They are some amazing ways to stay accountable. I definitely recommend hiring a coach, whether that is online or in person. It makes a massive difference. But yeah, accountability. And without a doubt, number 3 is going to be your programming. Firstly, are you actually following a program? If you're not following a program, and this applies to movement training as well as training in the gym and calisthenics, if you are not following a program, you are not maximizing results, you're not training efficiently. And you don't necessarily need a coach to write you a program. Yes, it will be massively beneficial because that's their job. That's what they do. They'll talk about the programming, the intensity of it, the regularity, the phases, deloading and loading weeks, all that stuff. They'll know how to do it because they're a coach. If they're a good coach, by the way, do your research. That's what they do, but you don't need necessarily to hire a coach to get a good program. If you build a good knowledge base and understand how to program, you can write yourself a half decent program that will get you some progress. Again, maybe not as much as a coach, but you'll still move in an upwards trajectory towards your goals. But that is, do you actually follow a program, and is your programming effective? You need to be looking at phases of training. You need to create these phases where you're working through progressions, building up the volume as you go. You test 1 rep maxes, or you test movements. You have maybe a bit of a deload week. We work on mobility and flexibility and kind of lighter weights or resistance work, and you build it back up, blah, blah, blah. You need to make sure that working through the progressions, your form is on point, that your repetitions and effort level is actually at a good level. There's no point in doing all this programming and work if you're only working out at a 3 out of 10 as opposed to a 6 or 7 out of 10. And that will come with your phasing. You need to phase these things. So maybe most of the time you're working at a higher volume at a 6 or 7 out of 10, and then you have 1 or 2 weeks at 8 or 9 out of 10, and then you drop off for your deload week and then go back up in the volume. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you don't have a coach, these are things you need to know. These are the essentials when it comes to programming. These will make massive, massive differences. I actually have a video about it, about how to build a program, the fundamentals of it essentially, but it should help you out somewhat. But these are the 3 points: your standards, accountability, and actually having a decent program in place for you. If you don't have these things, then maybe this is where you're not making the progress you want to be making, and the things you can change in order to make more progress. It will make a massive difference without a doubt. But that is essentially it. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. So please do leave any comments down below and I'll happily respond to them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can reach out to me on Instagram or just in the YouTube comments here. Let me know what you think, and until next time, have a lovely rest of your day.